Hey everyone, Bree here. I'm so excited. I film this video every year, the books I loved in 2020, as well as the books that disappointed me in the same year. And I'm so excited. I read 71 books, 72 books. Some of them at the end were children's board books. But I looked at my reading year, and when I look at it as a whole, I'm like, ugh. But then I gathered all the books that I loved, and there's quite a few, so I'm happy. So let's just get started and jump right into it, because this is going to be a very long video. So let's just get into it. So the first set that I have is a quartet, and that is the Raven Cycle Quartet by Yanagihara. This is a series. There's a girl named Blue and her mom, and she lives with her mom and two of her mom's closest friends. They're all psychics, and they work out of their home. They don't have a lot of money, and she goes to the public school, and there's a ritzy private school, and I think the mascot is why she calls these boys the Ravens or whatever, I believe, because I think that's their mascot, and so she calls them the Raven boys. She avoids them, can't stand them, and then so she's been told by all the psychics in her life multiple times her true love's kiss is going to die. Her true love, when she kisses him, is going to die, and she doesn't know if it's because of her kiss, if it's just a random sequence of events, so she avoids, you know, having crushes on people, falling in love. Well, one day, one of the Raven boys and his friends book an appointment at her house, and something else happens. I don't want to, you know, set up too much, and their lives are forever intertwined. I love this series. I had read an 800-page book on the Gulag by Anna Applebaum, very well researched, very good. But 2020 was just getting started, and everything that was going on was really, you know, ramping up. And I was like, this is depressing. I need something else. Otherwise, I'm not going to be reading the rest of the year. And I picked up this series on a whim. Heard of it, of course. I'm sure you've heard of it. I loved it because I just loved that dynamic, the characters. I really loved all of them. All four of them. Gansey, Ronan, Adam, and Blue. I just loved all four of them. I loved the relationships with each other. She took things in a way that isn't typical, I would say, in YA stories, but also just in general. Now again, I'm not a big YA reader, so this is just from my experiences, I guess I should say. And then even with the fourth book, which I heard, oh, she changed the way she was going to write things last minute. I have not looked into it super, but I kind of had heard that. And so some people ended up being a bit bummed by the end, but I wasn't at all. I was so happy it went in a direction that I was not expecting. They're all, you know, each of them have their own kind of talents or connections to the mystical world and things like this, and they're helping Gansey on a quest, and that's what drives their friendship, but there's so much more going on. And something that I loved that I don't normally like, which I think is what bummed some people out in the fourth book maybe, is that there are no concrete rules for how this world works. One of them can do this, and I don't want to say because it'd be spoilers, one of them can do this, one of them can do that. And, you know, there's consequences for the things that they do, and it's like, wait, you know, some people might want to know, wait, what? Why did that happen? What does that even mean? Or, oh wait, this is where it was going, or, oh, you know, all these things. And, you know, I really don't want to spoil it for you, but I loved it. I loved that. And I'm normally a person that's like, okay, what are the rules here? But I didn't need rules. I was just there for the ride, and I loved it. There's a short story that comes after called Opal that I read. I read each of these books in like a day, you guys. And there's a follow-up trilogy that follows one of the characters, Ronan Lynch, and his brothers, who are very interesting characters, and it's just a good time. And the first book was called Call Down the Hawk, which I absolutely loved. And the second one in the trilogy is called Mr. Impossible, apparently, which some people were kind of disappointed by, but I don't care. I'm so excited I will be reading it as soon as it comes out. The books in the series are The Raven Boys, The Dream Thieves, Blue Lily Blue, and The Raven King. Again, I absolutely love the series. If you love YA and somehow haven't read this yet, read it. If you are someone who doesn't usually dip into YA but does every once in a while and you've heard of it, I would say give it a shot. It's great. Like I said, I read each of these books in a day, and they got slightly bigger as they go on, and it really got me back into reading for 2020. So I'm forever thankful. The next book I'm talking about, also part of a series. So Anthony Horowitz, he writes children's books. He also writes an adult Sherlock Holmes telling series, but none of those I was ever really interested in. But he also now has 2 adult mysteries going, and he has 2 books out for each one. The first one, Magpie Murders, which I've raved about on here. It follows a editor named Susan Violent, and she is in her, I think 40, maybe 50 or something, which is really cool. And you don't really get a lot of that. And she's an editor, and one of her authors dies, and she's reading his latest manuscript, and the end is missing. And she figures out it's connected to the author's death. And so she reads the book to find clues and try and figure out what happened to the author's real life. The second one just came out, and I pre-ordered it on Audible. I wanted to read that right away. I devoured it. So good. Like, I've read a lot of mysteries since getting back into reading like 6 or 7 years ago, and I've been impressed a handful of times, and Horowitz writing is just amazing. I have not been disappointed at all with the books in this series. He has a simultaneous series going on called The Word is Murder, which kind of has a self-insert character and then like a Sherlock Holmesian character, which for me is such a gimmick that I'm so sick of normally, but I don't care. I loved it. The second one in that series was not as good, but I don't care. These 2 adult series, the Susan Ryland series and the other series, I am going to be devouring forever. I think he said he had like 10 planned in one of the series, so I will be along for the ride the whole time. Now, the reason why I enjoyed it is because the mysteries are just so good. And for this direct series that I'm talking about, Moonflower Murders, is book 2 after Magpie Murders. And each one follows a mystery within a mystery. And I'm not going to tell you, I can't go into details about this specific book that I read because it would spoil the first one. And it is just brilliant. I mean, to not only write 1 mystery, but 2 in a book is like super talented. So oh my gosh, so good. Please read them if you've been looking for a new mystery to read. And about these mysteries that he writes is you can pick up the clues and solve the mystery yourself. So I think that that's pretty awesome too. Sometimes it's fun to read one where you're like, oh, they're brilliant or something. But honestly, I really don't prefer that. I want to be able to have enough clues, or even if they're not leading clues, pick up, have enough intuition to pick up on maybe where these things are heading. So that's also really fun. He doesn't spell it out for you, but if you really want to concentrate and figure it out, it's there. I prefer not to. I prefer to just read and let the story wash over me instead of actively trying to guess. But every time I finish the book, I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah. So the next book I loved is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I picked this up because, of course, I've been getting ads for the TV show, which didn't quite interest me, but I was just browsing my library app, trying to find something that would catch my interest again, and I thought, why not? And I loved it. I read it all on my phone, on my Kindle app, on my library e-app, and I loved it. Like, one of the tropes I actually can't stand, all I'm gonna say is that they know each other in high school, she's from a rich family, his mom cleans her family's house, so they kind of know each other but not really, but they go to different social circles, so they don't want to be seen in public talking to each other. Typical high school stuff. And they end up having an affair, I guess you would call it, and and you follow the story of the relationships. They fall in out and out of the relationship over the next few years. I don't know how many, maybe 5 years, maybe longer. It's a while. And one of the tropes I normally hate is when people just don't say clearly what they want. This wasn't but it's not a misunderstanding book where there's a misunderstanding and they never talk. It's deeper than that, and I loved it. The TV show, I'm not gonna watch it, and I haven't, but I've kind of heard people talk about it like there's a bunch of sex scenes and all this stuff, but the book is way more subdued than that and a little bit more introspective. So I could see why people don't like it, or don't like the characters, or like, I don't care enough about the characters. But for me, I loved it. I'm not, the characters aren't like my favorite that I've ever read, but I enjoyed them for what they were and the relationship. I don't know, I was fascinated. Like, you could say, like, starting from the beginning, you could say, like, this is so stupid, like, high school really, your reputation in high school really doesn't matter. But when you're in high school, you think it does matter. And it's not just a simple thing of like, oh, he's popular and she's not. I don't know, it was interesting. I really liked it. I don't know if I'll be reading Sally Rooney's other book, Conversations with Friends. I haven't felt the pull for it, but who knows? Maybe. We'll see, but I really liked it, so. And this is a romance book, so Luke O'Donnell, he has a famous dad that he's never met, but his dad wants to make a comeback, so he needs to clean up his image. You know, he can't be seen stumbling out of clubs and all these things, so he needs to hire someone to be his, well, he needs to find someone to be his boyfriend, and the friends, and the guy that he ends up having this arrangement with, what I love is that it's someone he already knows. I love that. I like absolutely love that. It's not just someone random. It's not a friend of a friend that he's never met. It's actually someone that one of his friends has been telling them he thinks that they would be good for each other for like a long time. And so he's like, do not tell me Oliver. Do not tell me Oliver. Oliver's got like a stick up his ass, and like don't talk to me about him. And so you know the trope. And of course they end up together and falling in love and all that stuff. And it was just fun. It was fun. I really laughed a couple times. If you want to pick up something that you're in a slump, or you want something to make you laugh and a feel-good story, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I really liked it. So yeah, that is, again, Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. Okay, so those are all books that I don't physically own. So now we're moving on to books that I physically own. Hey guys, if the lighting has changed at all or anything, that's because I'm inserting this clip here. I forgot one book to talk about really quick, and that is Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. I listened to this on audio. It's a mystery, and this is a book that has split reviews. Well, overall it has a 3.8 rating on GoodReads, and I gave it 4 stars. So my name is Amber Reynolds. There are 3 things you should know about me. I'm in a coma, my husband doesn't love me anymore, and sometimes I lie. Now, all of the negative reviews in this book are like, halfway through, it spins you for a loop, and that just pissed me off. I don't care. I mean, to me, this book is kind of like Girl on the Train, where you're like, oh my god, like you just, it's, I guess, kind of like a beach read. Like, this would be a good beach read, and you, like, I just could not stop listening. And so in that sense, it's a good mystery. The mechanics of everything, don't think too critically about. I don't think it would exactly play out like this in real life. But I didn't care. I thought the twist was great. I was so absorbed. I was like, and then again at the end. So yeah, so that was another one that I absolutely loved this year. Yeah, Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney. I gave it 4 stars. So let's go. So the first book, oh, you guys, I have not said at all what I rated any of these books. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So the Anthony Horowitz book I gave 4 stars. Normal People I gave also 4 stars. And there might be some variation in there. I didn't write it down, so I don't want to click through to each book, but 4 stars is the GoodReads official rating that I've given both of those books. I gave everyone in the Raven Cycle Quintet and beyond, I've given them all 4 stars as well. And yeah, I think that about sums it up. Normal People, yeah, and Boyfriend Material I gave 4 stars. So let's go to a 5-star read for me, which is The Light Between Oceans by M.L. Stedman. This book, oh my goodness, and I was pregnant still when I read this book. Broke my heart. So after 4 years of trying to get pregnant, after 4 years on the Western Front, Tom returns to Australia to take a job at a lighthouse as a lighthouse keeper on Janus Rock. A half-day's journey from the coast to this isolated island where the supply boat comes once a season. He brings a young, bold, and loving wife, Isabel. Years later, after 2 miscarriages and 1 stillbirth, the grieving Isabel hears a baby's cry on the wind. A boat has washed up on the shore, killing a dead man and a living baby. Tom keeps meticulous records, and his moral principles have withstood a horrific war. He wants to report the man and the infant immediately, but Isabel, his wife, insists that the baby is a gift from God. And against Tom's judgment, they claim her as their own and name her Lucy. When she's 2, Tom and Isabel return to the mainland and are reminded that there are other people in the world. Their choice has devastated one of them. So, essentially, the mother of the baby. And yeah, and I'm not gonna say any more what ended up happening is heartbreaking story-wise, heartbreakingly realistic, heartbreakingly just in every way. Yes, I cried. And what ticked me off is seeing the bad reviews for this. It's pretty high rated, but seeing the bad reviews for this, so many people were like, she's so selfish. I can't believe she did that. I hated the book because of that woman and that character. And it's like, those reviews just made me so angry, because it's like, this is something that is an unimaginable experience, you know, these two miscarriages and then stillbirth, which it's still taboo to talk about when these things happen to women. More and more women and famous women are talking about these things, but people just didn't talk about it. So everyone thinks that they're the only ones that happens to. And it's just, you know, devastating. It broke my heart, you know, like, oh my gosh, like, people leaving those kind of critiques just made me so angry, because they had no compassion whatsoever. And this isn't a book where you're supposed to just automatically have compassion for a woman. You really, really feel what she's going through and what she's gone through and what she goes through at the course of this story. Like, say you don't like the book, but to specifically not like it because of this poor woman's grieving heart is like, ouch, ouch, oh my gosh. Take a look at your own soul, okay? But yeah. That is Light Between Oceans, and that has been on my shelf forever. So the next book is The Book of Strange Things by Michael Faber. Now this book I gave 3.8 stars, but I loved this book. I loved this book. I could not give it a full 4 stars. Great cover. So, Called to a Mission of a Lifetime, and this is a big book. I read this in like 2 days. This is like over 500 pages. Called to a Mission of a Lifetime, Peter travels light years from his wife, Bea, to an astonished new environment. He is to preach to a seemingly friendly native population struggling with a dangerous illness and hungry for Peter's teachings of the Bible. But when Bea's letters from home become increasingly desperate, natural disasters are rampant and governments are crumbling, her faith begins to falter. Peter, rattled and heartsick, is forced to choose historic humanitarian work or the love of his life. And I'm not joking when I say that is all this book is about. All this book is about. I kept expecting it to turn into some kind of thriller, you know, where the native, you know, because they always make the native population secretly turn out to be evil or something like this. This is literally all it's about. Are the letters they send back and forth, the environment, the people, the teachings. When you find out, in such a subtle way, it's told about the mysterious illness and like whatever. In a subtle, it's so subtle. It's told in such a subtle way what the illness is, and it's so simple. And it's devastating. I cried a little bit in this book too. It, like, again, 500 pages of nothing like dramatic, like nothing, no, you know, dramatic, you know? There's no, you know, action in this book. There's no nothing. It's literally what he said. It's a pilgrimage or whatever, mission. It's a mission. And it's beautiful. But for all those exact reasons that I said, I could understand why people don't like it. I think the average rating, so the average rating is 3.67 on GoodReads. I can understand why people are like, this is boring. I was enthralled, like, oh my gosh. So it's about 500 pages exactly. I could not put this down. I loved it. I love it so much. Oh my gosh, I loved it. I'm trying to remember what else I've read by Michael Faber. Oh, The Crimson Petal and the White. Huge book I have on my shelf somewhere behind me, which I gave 4 stars, which is a chunky book that I also loved. So I don't know, I think I'm gonna change my rating right now to 4 stars for this, because it's beautiful, a beautiful book. Oh my gosh, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. That's all I can say, literally. Okay, so the next book on my list, The People in the Trees by Hanya Yanagihara. Now, I just want to give a warning for a couple reasons. I mean, let me read the back, and there's your warning. In 1950, a young doctor named Norton Perina embarks on an expedition to a remote Micronesian island in search of a rumored lost tribe. There he encounters a strange group of forest dwellers who appear to have attained a form of immortality that preserves the body but not the mind. Purina uncovers their secret and returns with it to America, where he soon finds great success. But his discovery has come at a terrible cost, not only for the islanders, but for Purina himself. When he comes back, he takes back oh, I thought it would said on the back of here, but never mind, it doesn't. So he brings back a bunch of kids from the island, and he's successful, but one of his kids accuses him of sexually abusing him. So it's a very serious topic. I need you to know that. Very serious. I gave this 5 stars. I can understand why people got pissed off. You get pissed off the very last chapter. I was so angry, I was like shaking. I was shaking with anger multiple times throughout this book. And I have to say, so Hanya Yanagihara also wrote a little life, which a lot of people that do not like it say it's torture porn, to be blunt. I also gave this book 5 stars. I would never in my life recommend this author to anyone. Ever. Ever. These are both devastating and horrific and haunting in their own way, but they're amazingly written. 5 stars. I will never reread this. Ever. Ever. I don't want to. I'm never recommending it to people. I'm still so angry. Oh my god, I'm still so angry. But these are 5 stars for me. And so, at the beginning he's accused of, yes, he's accused of that, and then you go back in time from the beginning. I also want to talk about this book with someone. There's so many, I have questions. I want to know people's own opinions and thoughts about the answers to some of the questions I have. But again, I'm never recommending these books to anyone. They're devastating in completely different ways, but they're so good and so well written. Yeah. So I just, oh my, they're so, oh my gosh, they're so good, but yeah, no, not recommending that ever. 5 stars for both of them. So it follows his journey, you know, from the beginning to the island, what happens. One of the things that I will mention and talk about, or just mention briefly, is, like it said, there's this thing that he went to go find that can rumored to extend life, but reduce your mental faculties over time, kind of like Alzheimer's, which makes sense because the human body is only supposed to live so long. So if your body is staying alive past the, max of maybe 100 years that you're supposed to be living, your brain cannot keep up. It's not going to be able to keep up. So that was fascinating and devastating and upsetting aspect all by itself, even without the other stuff that's messed up. So yeah. Next book is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I gave this book, let's see, 3.5 stars. I know this book. If you're looking for the dark academia book, you go to The Secret History, which I've said multiple times. I didn't like The Secret History until I read Bellwether Revivals. Bellwether Revivals by Benjamin Wood. You need to read The Secret History and this book in order to appreciate the brilliance of both. I think you have to read both. I genuinely mean this because they are the inverse and complementary pieces to each other, and I want to talk to someone about both of these books for hours so badly. So badly do I want to talk about both of these books. You have to talk about them together though. You just have to. You just have to. This is not those books at all. I know it's not that good. I don't care. I was also super angry. This is a book where not talking to each other pissed me off in a bad way, unlike with normal people. I don't care. I honestly think I might reread it someday. I know it's not as good as the other ones. It doesn't matter. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I would recommend it to people. Oh my god. So the Dark Academia, you know, not Quintet, trio with these 3 books, you know, of the ones that I read. I did read Vita Nostra, which is considered Dark Academia. I hated it. So I don't include that one in my Dark Academia recommendation books, but I loved it. So it's basically The Secret History and Bellwether. So Secret History deals with Greek students or Latin students or something, and the Bellwether Revivals deals with multiple things, I think, but music is basically the main theme, and not the main theme because that makes it sound like it's all about music, but that's like the studying category, I would say. And this is about Shakespeare. So they put on a play. It's something bad happens, and they work it out through that. The reason why I didn't rate it as high is because it did get really, actually, I don't think I'll probably reread this. Who knows though, never say never. The reason why I gave it a lower rating is because they quote Shakespeare to each other a lot, and I'm like, I don't care. It gets old after a while. It gets old after like the first 3 pages. So really the only reason I rated it lower is because that just annoyed me. But I don't care. I loved it. I loved it. If you are out of books like The Secret History or whatever to read, this will never compare, but so much. Okay, the next book is a sci-fi book, another big book. I've read a lot of big books this year. Is The Passage by Justin Cronin. Now, I am not into, well, I say that, and then I read the Raven Cycle series. I'm not into big epic, I'm not into epic series right now. I'm just not. So I'm not going to be reading the sequels to this, but this is so good. I talked about the horror and stuff that I like. I do not like vampires. I do not like ghosts. I do not like, in sci-fi or horror, I don't care for those kind of supernatural creatures, but this is tied into a bit of science and government conspiracy. So, and one of my friends loved this book, so I thought to give it a shot. An epic and gripping tale of catastrophe and survival, The Passage is the story of Amy, abandoned by her mother at the age of 6, pursued and then imprisoned by the shadowy figures behind a government experiment of apocalyptic proportions. But Special Agent Brad Volgast, the lawman sent to track her down, is disarmed by the curiously quiet girl and risks everything to save her. As the experiment goes nightmarishly wrong, Volgast secures her escape, but he can't stop civilization's collapse. As Amy walks alone across miles and decades into a future dark with violence and despair, she is filled with the mysterious and terrifying knowledge that only she has the power to save the ruined world. So I'm just going to tell you now, it's essentially a government experiment gone wrong, turning people into vampires. The second book's called The 12, and there's 12 who survive these experiments essentially and are some kind of variation. Well, obviously not the typical vampire, this is like a twist on it, but there's some kind of variations of that, the own version, I guess, of that. So in the future, there's people that live in like pods where like the lights are always on and everything, and I think they call them Vampira or something. I read this at the beginning of the year. And so you follow people from within those pods as they keep watch. There's watchers on the walls and things like this, and there's a couple people who have lost their parents or something, and they go out. I can't remember why. They leave the compound to find other people, essentially. There's a lot of things that help spark that, but you really, you know, you get things from, you follow things from different people's perspective. You get a perspective from the people who rescue, the guy who rescues Amy, the people in these, not pods, but like big walled cities. You get various characters' perspectives. It's long. It's over 600, over 700 pages. This is so well crafted. Now this is very good science fiction, and I mean very, very good, because there's a human piece. It's not just actiony. It's not just whatever. It's so good. Really, really good. And even if I didn't love some characters, I really liked everyone. I really liked everyone. I felt like, yes, these are a bunch of different kinds of people, and I get it. And yeah, it was really, really good, but I'm not reading the rest of the trilogy. But I'd say if you're on the fence about this, give it a go. Okay, the next book I read is a separate piece by, that I'm talking about is a separate piece by John Knowles. Now this is so funny because I didn't remember till after I read this at my library, in my area, teens have to read this in high school. So this is set at a boys' boarding school in New England during the early years of World War II. It's a harrowing and luminous parable of the dark side of adolescence. Jean is a lonely, introverted intellectual. Phineas is a handsome, taunting, daredevil athlete. What happens between the two friends one summer, like the war itself, banishes the innocence of these boys and their world. And it's short. I read this so quickly. All I'm gonna say is, as teens, we feel a lot of emotions. We don't always know why we did something. Sometimes we do things and you're like trying to justify it in your head, or you don't want to look too close at it and you just act on impulse, and that's what one of these boys does, and you follow the friendship as a result of that action, and my heart, I was just like, oh my gosh. But that's all I'm gonna say, because that's all I need to say. For The Passage, I gave 4 stars, 4.5 to be exact, and then for a separate piece, I gave 4 stars, and I said in my review, all I said was a deceptively simple read. It is not a simple read at all. It is another book I'd love to talk to people about. Okay, the next book I read is another chunker. and this is The Distant Hours by Kate Morton. Now, I was hesitant about this because I had read another book by Kate Morton and I hated it. It was your typical romantic suspense kind of thing, dealing with letters. I don't even remember what it was called. I couldn't stand it. The Distant Hours by Kate Morton, oh my gosh. I want to talk about this book too. It's so good. Okay, so it starts with a letter lost for half a century and unexpectedly delivered to Eddie's mother on Sunday afternoon. The letter leads Eddie to Middlehurst Castle, where the eccentric Blythe spinsters live and where she discovers her mother was billeted during World War II. So her mother was sent to go live with the Blythe sisters. The elder Blythe sisters are twins and have spent most of their lives caring for their younger sister, Juniper, who hasn't been the same since her fiancé jilted her in 1941. Inside the decaying castle, Eddie searches for her mother's past but soon learns of the other secrets hidden on the walls. The truth of what happened in the distant hours has been waiting a long time for someone to find it. Doesn't even begin to cover what this book is about. Oh my gosh, the way there's a mystery, the way the secrets unfold. I don't even want to tell you specifics though because I don't want to ruin any surprises. Like, a mystery, suspense, lost love, like, oh my god. This is a book I would reread, absolutely. Like, oh, the layers. She's brilliant. So now I have to give Kate Morton another shot because I could not stop thinking about this book after I read it, like, at all. So these three girls' lives, what happened, you know, her fiance jilted her, what happened there, you know, why are they living like spinsters, you know, all these things. And it's so layered. It's so layered. I don't want to say anything else though. I can't read it, please. Okay, another book I read is The Roundhouse by Louise Erdrich. I have another one by her, La Rosa, which I started and picked up both of her books that I own twice, and I'm so glad I pushed through to this one because holy moly, this book is amazing. So on Sunday in the spring of 1988, a woman living on a reservation in North Dakota is attacked. The details of the crime are slow to surface because Geraldine is traumatized and reluctant to reveal or relive what happened either to the police or her husband, Basil, and 13-year-old son Joe. And one day Joe's life is irrevocably transformed. He tries to heal his mother, but she will not leave her bed and slips into an abyss of solitude. Increasingly alone, Joe finds himself thrust prematurely into an adult world for which he is ill-prepared. While his father, a tribal judge, endeavors to wrest justice from a situation that defies his efforts, there's a whole thing about justice and trying someone and investigating a crime that covers lines such as, like, I think federal lines and these reservations. So that brings a bunch of grief and angst with it. And frustrations, of course, for this poor boy. He uses him and his trusted friends launched their own official investigation to find out what happened to his mom, and devastating. Boom, 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 boom. That's what happens in this book. You get punched in the face multiple times. And my heart hurt. I don't think I read a lot of books that have teen boys, I guess, as the protagonists. Trying to think, you know, Stephen King does that sometimes, but I really am trying to think off the top of my head. Oh, well, I talked about a separate piece, but either way, this sticks out to me. This story told from a teenage boy's perspective, it sticks out to me. I just loved it. And I felt like it really, really just gave a good heart and voice, which, you know, I say a good heart and voice and can't say anything more, and it broke my heart. Like I said, you'll be punched in the face multiple times. Apparently all the books are kind of connected. Like in La Rosa, I think there's a relative that distantly relates to someone they name in here from the tribe and stuff. Please read it. It's so good. Okay, we have two more. Oh my gosh, it's so long. If you stuck around, thank you. But I didn't want to just say I liked a book and then be like, oh, read it. I wanted to talk about it. So meet the Cook family, mother and dad, brother Lowell, sister Fern, and Rosemary, who begins her story in the middle. She has her reasons. I was raised with a chimpanzee, she explains. I tell you Fern is a chimp, and already you aren't thinking of her as my sister until Fern's expulsion. She was my twin, my funhouse mirror, my whirlwind other half. I loved her as a sister. As a child, Rosemary never stopped talking, then something happened and Rosemary wrapped herself in silence. We were all completely beside ourselves by Karen Joy Fowler. Now, I picked this up, I got this for free, and I kept looking at the back like, I'm actually gonna care about this. I'm so glad I read this. I'm so glad I read this. It takes you places you didn't think. It's got a narrative kind of spin that makes you think, and it just, you know, deals with childhood memories, like how well do we actually remember our childhood that well. It's got, you know, an estranged family and a not estranged family, but a heartbroken family that has been torn by things that have happened, revolving around this chimp. Like, no joke. I thought I was gonna, okay, to be frank, I thought I was gonna think this was stupid. And I thought it was stupid when I read the back. I don't think that anymore. So, yeah. So the Roundhouse I gave 4 stars to, 4.5 stars to, and we're all completely beside ourselves. I gave 4.8 stars to this book. Oh my gosh. And the last book is actually a nonfiction, my only one in this list. I did read Catch and Kill by Ronan Farrell, and I liked it, but didn't wow me. The one nonfiction book this year that wowed me is Empty Mansions, and this got me into reading another big book. I tore through this. By Pill Denman, winner of the Pulitzer Prize, and Paul Clark Newell Jr. Empty Mansions, the mysterious life of Huguette Clark and the spending of a great American fortune. To put it into simple words, it's a mystery of wealth and loss. A secretive heiress named Huguette Clark owned homes everywhere. She gave money to everyone she knew. She was always giving away her fortune. When she got too old, you know, after everyone she's known was dead, when she got too old, she went into this hospital thing that you're only supposed to be in there for a little bit, but she paid to help keep them running, and she paid so she could stay, and she just kept giving away her money until she had like pennies left. That's it. That's it. It's humongous. It's fascinating. Please read it. Family history. People trying to swindle her. You know, she gave huge gifts, millions of gifts, cars, homes to people. This woman just sounded fascinating. I picked this up also on a whim because I got it for free, and so glad I did. Oh my gosh. Okay, that is all the books. I'm so sorry this video is so long, but I love books and I gotta talk about them. And I wanted you guys to really get the gist of why I love the books. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let's see, 16 in the quartet. I talked about over 20 books in this thing, so please tell me if you guys have read any of these, if you loved them, even tell me if you hated them. You know, I like hearing about that too. I hope you guys loved this video. I will be putting up the books that disappointed me next, and there's not nearly as many. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, let me know your opinions on these books, and I will see you in the next video.